February the 15th, 2021. Guys, a lot of news tonight on this weather situation. Let me say first that here in central Mississippi that we have gotten a break. We've got 2 or 3 inches of ice on the ground. There's 60,000 people without power right now, and the temperatures are not going to go above freezing for the next few days. So this is not going anywhere. But the good news is that with the front that was coming through and that was going to pull ice and snow and freezing rain into the area here where we're at, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, that front, the speed increased in movement. And now that's all moved north. So after, it's 5:19 p.m. right now as I'm looking at my clock, Central Time. And by 6 p.m., the chance of precipitation is going down from 20% to 0 throughout the night. And if you look closely at your radar, you'll see that. And that's a blessing because our tree limbs are loaded down. There's 2 or 3 inches of ice on the ground here. You saw in the video earlier. There's light flurries now, but they're very super light, and that's supposed to be gone within about 40 minutes. And that's what the radar is indicating. So that's a blessing here because even though we've got about 60,000 people without power, there's about 3,600,000 in Texas without power. And there's a lot of things going on there, and all of it doesn't really add up. But it is happening, and it's real. And for my friends that are in that area in Oklahoma, our thoughts are with you. But what has happened now, as you see the article, Texas deploys the National Guard as grid chaos leaves millions freezing in darkness. Guys, what are the last 4 words? Millions freezing in darkness. What have I said about grand solar minimum all these years? Here are the key takeaways from the Texas rolling blackouts, Monday the 15th, this morning coming out. And one thing about Zero Hedge is what we're looking at. And the guys, they will put, it won't be the real names on some of the articles, but they're pulling them from major news sources like Bloomberg and CNBC, things like that. I trust on the stock market reports because it is what it is. But so I'm saying that because last night some people were saying, well, where are you getting this information from? And I'm going to tell you, Zero Hedge has been the most accurate in the last 10 years of any news site on the planet. So take it, for what it is. The key takeaway from the Texas rolling blackouts, again, in the video yesterday, they were thinking about an emergency situation to where there would be rolling blackouts. They didn't mention the National Guard now, but now that has happened. And we got to realize who's in control of the situation nationwide. Never forget that. But the Weather Channel warns of dangerous cold temperatures. Right now I'm looking at, it's now 5:21 p.m. Central. It is 18 degrees outside with the wind chill factor of 12. That's going to decrease rapidly. I said that the moisture is gone as far as the snow, rain, and ice, but the temperatures are dropping rapidly tonight. Well, guys, we could see from -3 to 5 degree wind chill factors, and without and one of the things that being from the south is if on the winters that we do see a little snow or something like that, it rapidly melts the next day. Everyone here knows that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But this could be a 3 or 4 day melting period because the temperatures are going to be that low. And so if you're in a situation where you don't have power, it's going to be, it's not like they just can flip it back on. But there's more and more states now that have joined Texas. And as a matter of fact, if you draw a straight line from Texas all the way to the Canadian border, those states have joined in the rolling blackouts. Now, with the increase in prices, we talked about last night the price effect on your electric bill. And that has eased up somewhat, but it's still 100 times the normal cost getting into megawatt hours. We talked about kilowatt hours last night, but into the megawatt hours that the companies that give you power are buying it at, it is at 100 times what it was a few days ago. They were paying about $25 a megawatt hour for their natural gas and things like that. Right now, it went to $9,000, and then overnight it went to almost $13,000 per megawatt hour. From 25, guys, from 25. Listen to what I'm telling you. Now it has eased up and come back down to $2,500 a kilowatt hour. So do the math. Do the math. You're still at 100 times the cost of electric power. And when I say that, that's for the consumer customers, not the businesses, because they're locked into different rates. And it could be devastating, in the millions of dollars, up to $7 million per day for some of the larger markets. But it will be like we saw starting last year with some of the problems with COVID coming through, is that it eliminated a lot of independent businesses. And if the power bills get this high that we're looking at, and they don't somehow spread it out over a year or two to let everybody pay for it, then it will, in effect, wipe out a tremendous amount of small businesses. Not only that, there will be many people like you and me that cannot afford this power. So it's a good thing, a good time to think about solar. But let's go back to this. Southwest Power Pool says 17 states are limiting energy usage. 3.368 million Texans without power. They started out this morning. It was going to be 15 to 30 minute rolling grid outlets. That quickly went. It dissipated very quickly into hours and hours. Texas Governor Greg Abbott calls up Texas Army National Guard. An on-car electric delivery continues to warn about extended controlled outages. Extended controlled outages. Greg Abbott states power grid not compromised. And it's like there's not damage to the grid, is what he's saying, and it's just the weather, and that 50% of the windmills are frozen, and with the temperatures dropping, probably more than that. Southwest Power Pool declares energy emergency alert level 3. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner warns of more blackouts. And it's going to be below zero there tonight. Houston Mayor again suspends air travel in Houston. ERCOT, which is Texas, wholesale electricity prices plunge from the cap, listen, of $9,000 we were talking about in the video yesterday, remember? But overnight it went to nearly $14,000. So as they're bidding on that price, it will be interesting to see how if they were bidding in at $14,000 instead of $9,000 per megawatt hour, how that will reflect on the power bills next month. But it says, again, ERCOT wholesale electricity prices plunged from the cap of $9K, which really was $14K, per megawatt hour to around 2.5K milliwatt. Right here, guys, I want you to absorb this a minute. Do you know what it was before the storm? Now, we're not dealing with kilowatt hours like we were in the video. We're dealing with megawatt hours. Do you realize that it was $25 per kilowatt hour? Now, $2,500. That's 100 times, from $25 to 2,500 kilowatt megawatt hours per megawatt hour. So take your electric bill for this short period of time, is what we're hoping, and multiply it by 100, and you may see what these few days are going to cost you. Now, either they're going to force a tremendous amount of people off the grid, as well as most businesses, or they're going to have to spread this payment out, or come up with some type of government relief. And I'm sure with the present administration that there will be a lot of help coming very rapidly. But anyway, 100 times, if you're paying $300, $400 a month, whatever it is, $200, $100, just take that 200 and make it 2,000, because that's what it's back down to now. The Encore electric delivery extends the rolling blackouts. Even though a lot of the moisture's gone, guys, we're dealing with a heavy coating of ice and snow, and pipelines and supply chains are frozen up. There's a greed impact on natural gas, because they're seeing that they're making millions instead of thousands per unit on this thing. But there are 2.7 million Texans without power, but this has been upgraded to 3.6 now. And again, this is a little older, saying it went to 9K per kilowatt hours, back down to 2,500 megawatt hour. Now, it goes on to say, and this is going back just a few hours, while millions of Texans are without power heading into Monday evening, the power grid may be strained once more as temperatures could reach dangerous levels, according to the Weather Channel. More record lows are expected for Tuesday morning across Texas. It's not just Texas, it's the entire nation in a lot of ways. Grand solar minimum. I don't know where Al Gore is tonight, but grand solar minimum. If ERCOT, listen, this is Texas, doesn't secure additional power generation, more blackouts may occur. So who's in control of the distribution? And I understand the weather, but the natural gas has a lot to do with this, because half of your windmills are frozen, which is a lot of people are talking about green energy is not very good in this day and time. But let me tell you something. My solar panels were running at 75% today, charging my entire system with complete overcloud and ice falling, because their newer panels are more efficient, and when you've got ice on the ground is basically white after it gets to a certain thickness like snow, then you have a reflective property. And so even though the windmills were frozen, I had full power, almost full power, 75% when the ice eased up of charge power. So all green energy is not bad. I saw a lot of comments about that, not here on my channel, but in the news outlets, just downing any type of green energy. And I'm sorry to say that my panels, even on a stormy day here, I'm getting 75-80% charge. I actually did a video on that, and I'll try to put it up tomorrow on what my panels are doing and the actual charge rate, showing you my MPPT converters. But I've been working on the system about 3 years, and I want to emphasize to many people, and you should listen to me, that solar panels and wood-burning heaters are key. Now let's look at this map. This was at 1612 Eastern Time, the Southwest Power Pool, SSP, which manages the electric grid. And look at the map here. North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, all the way down into parts of Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, New Mexico. It manages the electric grid and wholesale power market for those areas. It says released an update today afternoon saying that 17 states have curtailed energy usage to balance supply and demand. In other words, blackouts. Now, the control factor here has me concerned. We do have incredibly cold weather. It is grand solar minimum. But we do know certain factors will take advantage of a situation. Now let's take a look at this wholesale power price from ERCOT, and it's a chart on what the bidding prices and what they were paying throughout yesterday and today. They're saying, and this is Dan Woodfin, a senior director at ERCOT, Texas Energy, we would expect to be in emergency operations tomorrow through at least Tuesday morning. That's tomorrow. On Monday morning, ERCOT wholesale electricity prices for delivery surpassed the grid's price cap of $9,000 per megawatt hour, many multiples of the average cost. Listen, let me highlight that, of $25 a megawatt hour. Last night it was kilowatt hours. Now we're dealing with megawatt hours. So that was yesterday, and let me bring this grid up a little closer. I'm going to show you a couple things. This is saying the wholesale power prices of ERCOT, and goes from the 14th here that you're seeing and started rising this purple line into the 15th, February the 15th, and let me pull this down. Here's your timestamps, February 15th, 14th. And so the red line is the 9,000 per megawatt hour. Remember, the average is $25. So overnight, we saw it spike up into right here, 11,600, say, and here, 12,600. Very close to $13,000 per megawatt hour. What's the average? $25. Now it's back down to 9,000 here, but now at the late evening, it's not on the chart, it has dropped to $2,500 per megawatt hour as it's closing out. From $25 to $2,500 per megawatt hour. So guys, be conservative on your energy and think about alternatives. I'm going to do a video, and I recorded part of it today, on the energy that my panels were supplying, even with 1/8 of an inch of ice over the top of them, getting 60 or 70% energy efficiency into my batteries, even at overcast. They don't freeze up like your windmills do. And again, with the attack on green energy, I felt like I needed to do this. But tomorrow I'll have that video up, and I'm showing you both the ice on the ground, the panels, and the charge in the batteries. So watch for that. But guys, again, we're down. This has dropped back to $2,500 per megawatt hour. So you're only at 100 times the normal. So what are we looking at? Is it total control? Think about it. It's a heads up. Be safe.